Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and before this video begins, this is basically the third attempt that I've made to put this video together, and from what I can tell, I was using some footage of Return of the Jedi to kind of explain my point. I was using the end space battle. I'll put a link in the description below to the original version of that had audio. Mine did not. Somehow that, I don't know, whatever, but apparently if you show the footage of when the X-Wing and the Millennium Falcon fly down into the Death Star from Return of the Jedi, that's a copyright hit. Now, you can show the rest of the battle, but that 2 minutes from when they fly into the Death Star to when they fly out, no, you are violating their copyright. Everything else is fine, but that violates copyright. So, I've basically removed the footage. There's going to be a link in the description below to see it. Now, here we go. The Piracy Show. And fuck you, frozen head of Walt Disney. Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now, I'm going to start off this show with a bit of a special request. In the description below, there's a link to a fan edit of just the space battle in Return of the Jedi. Ewoks, Endor, Luke Vader, all that's been taken out, and it's just the space battle. And I think it's just going to be good reference material. So if you want, pause the video, open up another window, click that link, and kind of watch the battle. It's obviously it's an awesome space battle, and it also gives some reference material moving forward with this discussion. So if you want, right here, pause, go watch that, come back, and then I'll talk about it. So if you're just watching right through now, or you got back, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was Squadron 42. Now, one of the big blows to Squadron 42, of course, was the loss of co-op battles. And a lot of people kind of took that kind of hard. And, I mean, while I understand that, for me, single-player games, single-player campaigns are just not that interesting. They really, really aren't. And, Squadron 42 is in as much as there might be interesting elements. How do you attack the battle? How do you do this? How do you do that? In the end, you're on rails. You're on an amusement park ride. And that's just, to me, that's not interesting. I mean, even GTA 5, I have never completed the single player campaign. The closest I got was on PS3. I think I got maybe 80% done. I was always more interested in the online experience, the more dynamic experience. So finding out that co-op battles were not going to be part of Squadron 42, it just kind of like, it was just, okay, no, I can just totally forget about that. But there's an element that I think that is lost there that Star Citizen could rescue. And that is to have, these big and epic space battles. And I don't really think that you need to go off of a script. And that's always been one of the things that, when I look at games like Squadron 42, I mean, it's part of Star Citizen. But at the same time, when I look at games like that, I always look at them and I go, that's the old way of thinking. That's the 80s all over again. And, whereas, some parts of the 80s right here are awesome. The single player games just aren't that interesting. I mean, if I were looking at it right now, I don't even think that I would have bothered with Squadron 42, to be honest. I mean, I see all the videos, I see all the production that's gone into it, and all all the money that's been spent, obviously. But what I would do, honestly, is you've got the Vanduul here, on basically cutting into the human empire on one little chunk there. I think on the, the east side, depending on how you look at the map. But you have the human systems here, Vanduul over here. You have this perfect opportunity through that framework to create these enormous battles, and it's stuff that's already been done in other games, but with Star Citizen you could do it so much richer and so much better. I mean, even WoW recently did it with the Broken Shore invasion. When you first, play Legion, you go in, you do the Broken Shore battle, Alliance on one side, Horde on the other, and you progress through different elements of the battle until you get to the climax, and then boom, you're back to Orgrimmar or, Stormwind. to deal with the aftermath of the battle. But in a Star Citizen framework, you could do some amazing things with. You could have a Vanduul invasion of a star system, as has been described to us in some of the Squadron 42 materials, and you could have players form up into groups and fight long-staged battles against the Vanduul, sort of like, how players in WoW would fight a weekly raid, or in many MMOs would do, so-and-so raid every week, and you could move these between systems, and you could offer different rewards for it. Maybe it's reputation, maybe it's unique schematics to make special weapons or whatnot that have special properties, or special ship equipment, something that maybe isn't quite legal, but works better than a regulated component or a legal component. But there's all kinds of opportunity to create a reward system, a reputation system there, and something that players can do as a team every week. And I mean, if the server hardware can support it and the player's internet connection can support it, you can put in so many players into these battles like they've been talking about. If you can think of all the ships, and I mean, this is a perfect example. The Rebel fleet is kind of like a hodgepodge of all these different ships that have been sort of repurposed somewhat towards combat, and the fighters, it's all a mixed bag. I mean, this would be ideal in a Star Citizen environment. Different people with different fighters. You could link up and you could say, okay, such and such an org is bringing like 12 gladiators and a couple of retaliators. So-and-so is bringing hornets and buccaneers and whatnot. And we're bringing capitals and sub-capitals, corvettes. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? All the different ships. And your fleet going into that battle would be like that hodgepodge assembled fleet. And it would be kind of like, a regional alert, go out, defeat the Vanduul, reap the rewards, and do it in such a way that it really kind of looks for the best kind of gameplay experience, like maybe even going so far as to turn friendly fire off in those battles, just because some people say, oh, that's not realistic. Yeah, but that there are going to be dickheads who are going to shoot people on their own team just to settle a score, or just because they feel that somebody stole something off of them. So it's usually some completely idiotic reason behind that kind of behavior anyway. But I mean, you could do all kinds of crazy stuff, and for pirates, you could have the Vanduul at the same time invading a pirate-controlled system, and so the pirates got to put together a fleet and take them on, and you could fight your way through a battle. I mean, depending on how long people are willing to commit to it, a battle could last an hour, or it could be like a full raid night through Ulduar where you're there for like 2-3 hours, and you could just progressively move through different elements to achieve different objectives to kind of break through whatever protection that the enemy capital ship has, to get in there and destroy it, and then cause the Vanduul obviously to retreat or whatnot. But you could do things like that, and I mean, to really have a battle like that, especially if you had VR, it would be amazing. I mean, it would literally be Return of the Jedi come to life. And I don't know about you, but I still remember seeing this in the theaters. And, that's been one of the things, that I've carried with me all my life. Man, every time I watch this, it's like, man, I want to fly a Y-Wing in that battle. I don't know why, but the Y-Wing has always been my favorite Rebel fighter. But, yeah, I would, if that was the experience that Star Citizen gave, I would be all over it. And I mean, hearing that Squadron 42 lost co-op battles, big deal. That framework was just it's 80s, man. It's so 80s. I would love to have these huge giant fleet battles where it's the players putting the fleet together, and not a bunch of NPCs that have been kind of laid out the way the director wants it to be, but more or less let the battle unfold organically. Let players get together. Different orgs can team up, get on TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, Discord, whatever, and they can separate out into different, wings and flights and whatnot, and they can all go out and achieve their objectives, and then that becomes the challenge. It becomes like, how do you get through this battle as neatly as possible? If that was the experience, if that was the stuff that they were selling, I mean, I don't even think I would log into Squadron 42 once, except to pull down any achievements that I might need for special pieces of equipment or anything else that, that might yield in the Star Citizen universe. Apart from that, I just really, I get it. I watch the videos where they're showing all the cool stuff that they're doing and the actors and all that, but in the end, I don't care. I would be more interested in this type of experience. That would get me way more hyped up than, Squadron 42 ever could, no matter who's playing the roles or no matter how long it takes. It's just, I don't know. I maybe that's just me. Of course, I can be wrong and sometimes am, but Squadron 42, it just feels like doing things the old way. I'd be more interested in, building up these huge epic space battles and like these huge kind of raid night, team play night events in Star Citizen than ever doing that in a single player campaign. It's just, a single player campaign is just boring to me. So in the end, whenever we hear stuff about Squadron 42, I tend to just kind of blow it off because I really don't care. I mean, even if you're a PvE oriented player, right? Like, let's say you have zero interest in PvP whatsoever. You just want a PvE experience. I mean, wouldn't you like to just kind of get together with your friends, whoever's in your org or whatnot, and just form up like an elite group of Hornet pilots or Saber pilots or whatnot? And so on your server or in your little particular area or circle of friends, it kind of I keep referencing WoW, but it kind of reminds me of the old days in WoW when servers were isolated and everyone knew who the good tanks on the server were and everyone knew who the good DPSs on a server were if you were pugging a raid, and you would go with those people. And so every week, you could say, oh, we need what's his name from that org and his whole red squadron of Hornets or that blue squadron of Gladiators to come into our battle because those guys are really awesome. And you could get together every week and fight out those battles. To me, that would be vastly more interesting than, just kind of playing through a scripted set of events. I mean, just the nature of online gameplay and the nature of how people are. I mean, it would be dynamic. It would be a new experience every time. And I think that would be a vastly more rewarding experience and way more interesting. It's something that I think even to the general public would be something that they would take notice of much more than if you were to just say, here's, yet another title where you just basically jump through a series of hoops using whatever abilities or vehicles or whatnot to get to end goal. Yay, you're the champion. And that's it, because there's always like that added degree of difficulty when you're playing with other players, because there are the unpredictable elements, and I think designed correctly, it would be way better than Squadron 42, and obviously a heck of a lot cheaper to do. And I mean, yeah, I keep bagging on those 80s games, and a lot of them are kind of like the foundation of the ideas that led to these games, but that was what was good for the time. But nowadays, when you're playing single player games, it's kind of like you're just sitting there playing with yourself. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.